Told your mom, I told your dad.
Are you out of your mind or what?
But I can't live there. I can't. I can't take it anymore. You understand? I'm not going to live in this bedroom the rest of my life. I'm not happy there. So you know what? I'm leaving.
जाना ने कहीं नहीं है. जेनी ने हमारे साथ रहेगी. जेनी.
You are not going to leave. You have to live with us. It's an order.
Jenny's hand hovered over her phone, trembling like she had touched a live wire. Her eyes scanning messages that made her heart stop. Every word she read felt like a punch to the gut. There it was, Sumit, the man she thought she knew inside and out, sending affectionate notes to someone else, planning secret trips, sharing moments that were supposed to be theirs together. Her mind refused to accept it at first, disbelief washing over her in icy waves. Could the person she trusted the most actually be living a double life right under her nose? The world around her seemed to blur. She sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the screen, tears threatening to spill, confusion and anger clashing in every thought. Every anniversary she remembered, every late-night conversation, every promise, they all suddenly felt hollow. The images, the plans, the intimacy she thought was theirs alone, it wasn't. Hi, I'm Lily, and welcome back to Reality Drama Files. If you love uncovering the truth behind your favorite 90-day fiancé drama moments, make sure to hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have handled it differently if you were Jenny? Her mind raced. How long had this been happening? What else was hidden? The betrayal felt endless. A puzzle with too many pieces she couldn't see yet. Every notification ping made her jump. Every subtle vibration a reminder that more secrets could be waiting. The first undeniable proof lay before her. Undeniable enough to remove all doubt. It was not a rumor, not a hint, but concrete evidence that the life she thought she had was nothing but a carefully maintained illusion. And in that moment, Jenny realized everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. Jenny sank into the couch, her chest tight, as if the weight of betrayal had physically pressed down on her. Confusion twisted with anger, anger with heartbreak, and heartbreak with disbelief. Every happy memory she had with Sumit suddenly felt like a carefully scripted lie. The dinners they celebrated, the trips they planned, even the quiet nights on the couch, all of it now carried the bitter taste of deception. How could someone she loved so completely keep an entire life hidden right in front of her? Her mind played over small signs she had ignored, little inconsistencies she had chalked up to harmless forgetfulness. And now, those moments screamed at her with evidence she could no longer deny. Trust, something she had given freely, had been used against her, twisted into manipulation she hadn't even realized was happening. Could you even believe someone again after this? Could you rebuild the foundation that had just collapsed under your feet? The more she looked, the more the heartbreak grew. Jenny's fingers hovered over the next message, hesitating like touching fire. Each detail she uncovered was worse than the last affectionate texts, secret plans, and photos she hadn't expected. She remembered how she laughed with him over jokes she now couldn't even smile at. How she confided in him over fears she now saw he had ignored while lying. The contrast between the life she believed in and the reality she now faced was jarring, brutal, and suffocating. And then it happened. Something appeared that made her pause so hard she felt her lungs tighten. A photo she couldn't unsee. A moment she hadn't imagined would exist. Something so personal, so undeniable, that Jenny realized she was only seeing the tip of the iceberg. Everything she thought she knew about Sumit was unraveling, and she had no idea how deep it went. Jenny tried to act normal around her friends and family, but it was impossible to hide the storm inside. Her laugh felt hollow, her smiles forced, and every word carried a subtle edge that didn't go unnoticed. Her best friend, noticing the tension, asked if everything was okay, and for a brief second, Jenny almost broke down right there. She had always prided herself on composure, but betrayal has a way of cracking even the strongest facades. Meanwhile, her mind couldn't stop chasing every piece of evidence. Another message popped up, revealing travel plans she had no idea about. Hidden photos surfaced, moments that belonged to someone else entirely. Each discovery was sharper than the last, cutting deeper into the trust she had built over years. It wasn't just that Sumit had lied. It was that he had created a parallel life she hadn't known existed. The contrast between the life she projected to the outside world and the chaos inside her was unbearable. Publicly calm, privately shattered. Psychologists say betrayal hurts worse when it comes from someone you trust completely. Jenny felt that on every level. Every decision she made, every sacrifice, every vulnerable conversation suddenly felt like it had been manipulated. The emotional whiplash was relentless, her thoughts spinning in circles. Why? How long? What else? Could she ever trust anyone the same way again? As the evening drew closer, Jenny stared at the phone again, her chest tightening with both fear and determination. She knew what she had to do, but confronting Sumit wasn't going to be easy. Every scenario she imagined carried its own risks, its own heartbreak. And yet, the weight of silence, the unbearable tension, was pushing her toward a decision she couldn't ignore any longer. Tonight, she would face the truth, no matter the cost, and the next moments promised to change everything. Jenny walked into the room, her hands clenched, her heart racing, but her face a mask of calm. At first, she spoke evenly, almost measured, asking questions that seemed simple on the surface, but every word carried the weight of months of suspicion. Sumit tried to keep his posture casual, leaning back like nothing was wrong, but the tension was already thick enough to cut with a knife. As she went through the messages and photos, his initial attempts to shrug it off, or joke, fell flat. He hesitated, searching for words, trying to explain, but the cracks in his defense were obvious. When someone hides the truth, the body betrays them. Shifting eyes, quick hand gestures, small stammers. Sumit's defensive maneuvers were textbook, and Jenny noticed it all. Each "I didn't mean it like that," or "it's not what you think" only made the betrayal feel heavier. You could almost hear the thought, maybe, if I speak fast enough, she'll believe me. Jenny's mind raced with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Every attempt at justification felt rehearsed. Every excuse predictable. The behavior patterns were glaring, yet part of her wondered if she had been blind to them all along. That's the trick of someone living a double life. They normalize deception until you doubt your own instincts. Witty as it sounds, she couldn't help but internally roll her eyes at how obvious some of his moves were. This wasn't clever. It was careless, sloppy, and emotionally exhausting. The contrast between what she had believed and the reality she faced was staggering. Trust, once shattered, has a way of making every small lie feel like a mountain. Finally, Sumit admitted some of the truth, a partial confession that was more like a small window opening into a much darker room. Jenny's heart sank further, not because of what he admitted, but because of what he didn't. She knew there was more lurking, hidden behind rehearsed words and shaky defenses. The realization hit her like a jolt. This confrontation was only the beginning, and what lay beneath might be even worse. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the storm inside was far from over. Jenny's chest felt like it was being crushed from all sides. Rage bubbled up, sharp and raw, and in the same heartbeat, tears stung her eyes. Shock made her momentarily numb. Then the weight of betrayal slammed into her again, heavier this time. Every memory, every promise, every moment she had trusted Sumit now carried a sting that words couldn't capture. Her emotions twisted together, impossible to separate, and she realized There was no calm, no reconciliation that could undo the damage. She stared at him, trying to process the layers of deceit, trying to understand how someone she loved could live this double life. It wasn't just about the messages, the photos, or the travel plans. It was the erosion of trust itself. That invisible, fragile thread that holds a relationship together had been shredded, and no apology could stitch it back. Jenny understood something hard, but crucial. Staying in a situation where trust is gone isn't bravery, it's suffering. Walking away wasn't weakness, it was self-respect. Every instinct screamed at her, leave now, protect yourself, reclaim your life. And yet, leaving felt monumental, almost impossible. Betrayal doesn't just break hearts, it freezes decisions, makes everything feel heavier than it should. She had to push past the paralysis, past the hurt, past the love that had been twisted into confusion. Making the decision to leave when someone you care about has hurt you this deeply is brutal, but sometimes necessary. Her hands moved automatically, starting to pack small items. Her movements, shaky but deliberate. Each item she touched felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Each fold of clothing, a small act of defiance. She hadn't left yet, but the resolve in her eyes was unmistakable. Sumit watched, realizing perhaps too late that the woman in front of him was no longer the one who would quietly forgive. In that moment, Jenny understood the power of taking control of her own life. The weight of betrayal was still heavy, but the first steps toward freedom were hers to take, and nothing would stop her from walking through that door when the time came. Jenny grabbed her bag, her hands still trembling, but her movements steady with purpose. Every step toward the door felt monumental, like she was carrying not just her belongings, but the weight of months of deception, heartbreak, and frustration. The air in the room felt thick, charged with everything that had been left unsaid, every lie that had been exposed. Sumit's eyes followed her, wide, desperate, almost pleading, but she didn't turn back. Not this time. The moment her hand touched the doorknob, reality hit her fully. This was it, the point of no return. She opened the door and stepped into the hallway, her chest tight, her mind racing. Then, with a final glance at the apartment that had held so many memories now tainted, she slammed the door behind her. The sound echoed like a punctuation mark on the story of their relationship, sharp and final. There was no going back. Psychologically, moments like this aren't just about leaving a place, they're about reclaiming your power. Closure isn't always calm or quiet. Sometimes it's loud, messy, and impossible to ignore. Jenny's exit was every bit that, a declaration that she would not stay trapped in betrayal, that self-respect outweighed comfort, and that moving forward meant making space for her own life, even if it hurt. But even as she walked away, a part of her mind couldn't stop racing. The messages, the photos, the hidden plans, they were bad enough. But what if there was more? Sumit's secrets might not end with this one woman. Could there be another layer? Another person? Another betrayal waiting to surface? Her heart raced at the thought, anger mixing with fear. But she didn't let it paralyze her. She kept moving forward, step by step, carrying both the pain and the strength she had discovered in herself. Tonight was just the beginning. The door was closed, but the story wasn't over. Jenny's next move could redefine everything, and the world outside those walls awaited her courage, her choices, and the answers she still needed. Within hours, Jenny's walkout had exploded online. Fans flooded social media with reactions, shock, outrage, empathy. Memes popped up mocking Sumit's double life, while threads debated every message and photo Jenny had uncovered. Some viewers praised her bravery, calling it a moment of ultimate self-respect. Others couldn't stop theorizing, dissecting every gesture, every glance. every silence in the confrontation footage. The story was no longer just hers. It had become a shared experience for anyone who had ever trusted and been betrayed. Reality TV has a way of doing that. Viewers latch onto behavior, not just events. We empathize because we see pieces of ourselves in these moments. The fear of being blindsided, the shock of discovering someone isn't who we thought they were. Jenny's rage, heartbreak, and determination mirrored emotions we've all felt in betrayal. That's why this story hooked millions, why it dominated timelines, and why it became impossible to scroll past without forming an opinion. Of course, some commentary was dripping with humor, poking fun at Sumit's evasive excuses and awkward defensive moves. It's classic reality TV. People love drama. They love flaws. They love seeing someone finally held accountable. Watching Jenny process betrayal publicly gave viewers both catharsis and suspense, a mix of emotional release and voyeuristic thrill. But amidst all the chatter, one question hung over everything. What would Jenny do next? The videos, the reactions, the comments, they all pause on that moment of uncertainty. Fans speculated endlessly. Would she confront Sumit again? Would she disappear from the spotlight for a while? Or would she take steps no one expected? The answers weren't out there yet, and that suspense kept everyone glued. Refreshing feeds, hitting replay, and waiting for the next turn in her story. The public might have their theories, but Jenny herself was still deciding how to reclaim her life, and nobody, not even millions of fans, knew the next move she would take. Jenny sat alone in the quiet of her apartment, the weight of the past few days pressing down. Yet something had shifted inside her. The tears, the rage, the heartbreak, they had all carved space for something new. Clarity. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe without the shadow of deceit hanging over her. She realized that empowerment wasn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it was a quiet, unshakable understanding that you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. She thought about the warning signs she had ignored, the little red flags she had brushed off in the name of love. Each one had its lesson now. Trust is fragile, honesty is non-negotiable, and no relationship should compromise your sense of self. Jenny understood that recognizing these patterns wasn't just about avoiding betrayal. It was about knowing your worth and refusing to let someone diminish it. There was relief in this knowledge, a deep, satisfying kind of pride. She had survived deception. She had confronted the truth, and she had taken control of her life. The empowerment came from action, from choosing herself over comfort, from reclaiming a life that had been tangled in lies. Watching her grow through pain gave viewers something rare: admiration without envy, empathy without judgment. Her story became a reflection of resilience, showing that heartbreak can coexist with strength. Yet even in this newfound clarity, questions lingered. The future wasn't written. Could Jenny rebuild her life in ways she had only dreamed of before? Would new opportunities, new relationships, or even new adventures appear to test her strength further? The chapter she had just closed was heavy, but the next one held promise and mystery. Jenny's journey wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about the courage to face the unknown and the possibility that her best days were still ahead. While Jenny was reclaiming her life, Sumit faced the storm from a very different angle. His public image, carefully curated over time, began to crumble as social media buzzed with every detail of the betrayal. Friends, family, and fans dissected his actions, highlighting evasive gestures, awkward apologies, and the way he tried to frame the story as misunderstandings. Denial became his first defense, excuses followed quickly, and subtle attempts at manipulation surfaced, each one more obvious than the last. Watching him in interviews and clips, it was clear that the tension wasn't just about regret. It was about damage control. The behavioral patterns of someone caught in deception were textbook: minimizing, shifting blame, and hoping the outrage would die down. But reality TV fans are relentless, and Sumit's attempts to appear contrite were met with skepticism. The audience began asking questions. Could someone like this truly change? Could trust ever be rebuilt? Or was this simply a rehearsal for the next layer of deceit? There's an intense fascination in watching someone scramble under the weight of exposure. We empathize with Jenny because we understand betrayal, but we're also curious about the person who caused it. Sumit's reactions, defensive as they were, became part of the story, a cautionary tale about how secrecy eventually surfaces, no matter how carefully it's hidden. The more he spoke, the more cracks appeared, revealing the patterns of a man caught between image and reality. And yet, as the world focused on his public missteps, hints of something deeper began to surface. Small inconsistencies, vague references in messages, unexplained absences, all suggested that what Jenny uncovered might just be the beginning. Could there be another secret lurking beneath the surface? One that even Jenny hadn't uncovered yet? Sumit's fallout was far from over, and the story wasn't finished. The shadows around his actions hinted that the next revelation could change everything again. Even as the dust settled on Jenny's dramatic exit, the story was far from over. The apartment was empty, but the questions remained heavy in the air. What would Jenny do next? Would she confront Sumit's secrets further? Or carve out a completely new path for herself? Every step she took from here could rewrite the story, and the world was watching, hungry for answers. Jenny's empowerment had been hard-won, but courage often leads to new challenges. There were phone calls to make, boundaries to set, and decisions that would define the next chapter of her life. Could she trust anyone again? Or was rebuilding her world going to take more time than she imagined? And what about Sumit? Would he attempt another explanation? Another justification? Or was the unraveling of his double life only beginning? Fans online speculated endlessly, theories piling up faster than the posts themselves. Each rumor, each observation added to the tension, making Jenny's next move feel like it could ignite another firestorm. And then there were whispers, small hints and messages, cryptic posts, subtle references that suggested Sumit's secrets might not stop with just one woman. The suspense was almost unbearable, and that's exactly what keeps us glued to stories like this. The sense that nothing is fully revealed, and the next turn could shock everyone all over again. Hi, I'm Lily, and this is Reality Drama Files. We break down every twist, every betrayal, and every explosive moment from your favorite 90-Day Fiance stories, and we explore what's really happening behind the cameras. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of Jenny and Sumit's drama. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were in Jenny's shoes? Jenny's story is far from finished, and the next steps promise even more revelations, confrontations, and shocking truths. One thing is clear. Her journey isn't just about heartbreak. It's about resilience, courage, and the search for answers. The next chapter is coming, and you won't want to miss it.